My name is Josiah Winnell, and you're listening to the Power and Light podcast. And I just want to address something before we get into this. This is episode 67, and people have been asking, this is a big one. Obviously, you've made it a long time. For years, we've been recording this show, and over the entirety of 2025, people were wondering when we were going to get to this point when we recorded this episode. And I just want to address all of the backlash that I'm going to get already and just say we're not going to lean into any of what 2025 meant with episode what would be 67. Nothing to do with it, okay? So we're just going to move on. I'm sorry, we left that in 2025. With that being said, I thought it would be very appropriate to talk about kickers today. And specifically because we've seen some really special kicking throughout the 2025 NFL season. Now, we'll dive more into that in the offseason and why potentially the kicking game has gotten better as time has gone on. But I want to talk about Cam Little. Now, the thing about Cam Little is his name was known very early on. In the preseason, he hit a 70-yarder. And the world sat back and said, the world of sports, the world of football has changed. Now, it doesn't count officially for the longest field goal of all time, but it's still pretty impressive that in a real game, he made a 70-yarder. Doesn't count, though, in terms of the record books, but the assumption was with the current record being 66 yards held by Justin Tucker, it was a kick made in September of 2021, that would be broken this year by Cam Little, a kicker for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And for those of you that don't know anything about how important a kicker is often the highest scoring member of your football team. As crazy as that sounds, because all they can do is add 3 points or 1 point. But in reality, that is truly one of your highest scorers of your team is usually your kicker. So it's essential that they're very good. And when you look at what Cam Little has meant to the Jacksonville Jaguars, I mean, he's extremely accurate, but the strength of his leg is unbelievable. When you can kick a 70-yarder, all you're really having to do is get to midfield, essentially. And you're in a position where you might have a chance at a field goal. Now, most teams aren't going to take that because if you miss a field goal, then the other team gets the ball right where you were. But the reality for the NFL now is the scoring is going to go up if these kickers are really as strong as they are. Because let's say if they get it to the 50-yard line, they decide to kick it on fourth down, they miss, you could trot right back out with 3 seconds left and try to kick it with your own kicker. Because the kickers are getting stronger and stronger. And so the record from Justin Tucker in 2021 would likely be broken in 2025. And in fact, it was. Cam Little made a 68-yarder at the end of the first half in a November 2nd, 2025 game against the Las Vegas Raiders. A game in which eventually went to overtime. So 68 yards, that is the record. Now, here's the thing, though. That was in Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, which is indoor. So it counts. It's the record. But football purists would say, it was indoors. He kind of got an easy piece of the cake. The elevation was also much higher. Fast forward to January 4th, one of the final regular season's games, and we move into 2026. And right at the end of the first half, the Jaguars and Liam Cohn trot out Cam Little to kick a long field goal. Wouldn't break the record that was previously set, but would be a 67-yarder, which would be the farthest field goal in outdoors. And this is why we're talking about it. He made it. So 67 yards. Here's the important thing to mention. I said I wasn't going to mention it, but he didn't react after. I think that's super important because we left the whole 6-7 trend in 2025. I just want to make that clear. I won't bring it up again, I promise. But I'm just looking at everything that he has done throughout the season. Not only did he break Justin Tucker's record twice, a record that held for a couple of years. It's not like a 50-year record, but it's still impressive. He also was able to do it not only in an indoor stadium, but also an outdoor stadium. But here's what makes it even more impressive. Cam Little's field goal that he made from 67 yards was at elevation of 4 feet. He did it in Florida at sea level. His kick in Las Vegas was above 2,000 feet. Now, if you don't know anything about sports physics, the higher elevation you are, the more that the ball is going to carry. This is seen especially in baseball, especially at Coors Field where the Colorado Rockies play. Now, there's a higher rate of home runs and distance on balls that are hit because of the elevation, because Denver is known as the Mile High City. They're 5,280 on average feet at least in above sea level. And so, balls are hit farther, balls are kicked farther. You get the gist. Las Vegas, not nearly as high above sea level, but it's still significant, over 2,000 feet. So when Cam Little comes down and does it at sea level, people go, oh my, that's a big deal. So extremely interesting that he was able to do that. It's the longest outdoor field goal ever, 67 yards. So now that the Jaguars are out, the question is, what is Cam Little going to do in the offseason to refine his accuracy in kicking? So we'll talk about that more later, what the adjustment looks like. Obviously, Justin Tucker not in the NFL anymore, which is unfortunate. But you've got guys outside of Cam Little that are dogs. I mean, right now you would say Cam Little's the best kicker in the NFL if you had just gone by accuracy or by distance, not accuracy. But there's a guy in Dallas, his name's Brandon Aubrey, and he was pretty incredible this year. Now, he had a few moments that you go, whoa, I wasn't expecting him to miss that one. But he has been so accurate and so talented, and he hit a 65-yarder a few years ago, and he had a potential to hit a couple earlier this year, but just wasn't given the opportunities. The kicking game has been pretty elite, but when you look at the points and the distance that these kickers are able to make, it can make a huge impact on the NFL. Finally, I just want to move into what we're looking forward to on this championship weekend, AFC championship and NFC championship. I said in the last episode, it's a land of misfits. It's a little strange to have these teams back in the Final Four. All have had some type of history in the last 2 decades in these rounds, and lots of success, lots of failures. I'm excited to see what happens. Again, I previewed it in the last episode, but these coaches are phenomenal. But just giving a little bit of a taste. I'm not going to break down all 4 teams because you don't really need me to do that, and I never played in the NFL. You guys don't care about what I have to say about my analysis, but I do want to just spotlight some lesser seen individuals. And because it is episode 67, I know I said I wasn't going to talk about it anymore, but I do want to go through and just talk about the 67s that are on these teams. Just keep an eye out on them. You've got, unfortunately, on the AFC championship side, it's really boring. So boring. There's no number 67 on either team. The New England Patriots, nobody. Denver Broncos, nobody. Missed opportunity, missed branding, missed marketing in 2025. It's a good thing we left that in 2025, 2026. Maybe they'll pick a different number. I mean, freaking Drake May has been phenomenal. And so maybe number 10 is the new trend. Who knows? I think you could market him though. But on the NFC side, we have a completely different situation. Now, I'm going to start with the Rams with Justin Dietich, and he is wearing number 67. He is an undrafted free agent out of USC. Spent some time working with some of the most talented quarterbacks to go through there, but he is in his 2nd year. You're probably not going to see him unless you're on the sideline. But he's there, and he's rocking number 67. I'm happy for him. He's a guard/center. On the other side, now this is the exciting one, and you will definitely see this guy. Charles Cross, an incredible offensive lineman. Again, the 60s range is traditionally an offensive line number. I mean, when I searched in the 60s, I searched in 67, I'm expecting offensive linemen. Now, that's going to slowly change as people try to be more different, but the 60s is usually a position number that is held by offensive linemen. So number 67 for the Seattle Seahawks is Charles Cross. He's a 4th-year offensive lineman, and he was drafted out of Mississippi State. Now, this man is a big man. He is 6'5", and he weighs 317 pounds. So he's a big boy. He is truly one of those guys that when you look at everything that he's done with the Seahawks, as silly as this whole bit is, you look at who he is for the Seahawks, he is a pivotal part of this Seahawks team. I mean, incredible job so far. He's been a little bit hampered this year with some injuries and figuring out what he can do at that position, but he was a former top 10 overall pick in 2022. I remember when he was drafted. I mean, he was one of those guys as like an SEC offensive lineman. Usually those work out, but they're high risk, but high reward because top 10 offensive linemen usually pan out, but don't always. And so it's kind of usually the safe pick, but in his case, coming in, it was a little bit strange. So keep an eye out for him. As we look at all of the things that are going on right now, I really do believe that the Seahawks have the most complete team. I mean, it truly is, but they have so many more injuries than the Rams. And so if they're really hampered by that, Sam Darnold's hampered by the oblique injury that he's dealing with, it could be really interesting. So no predictions from me. I don't do predictions anymore because I was wrong all the time, but I'm cheering for the Seahawks, but don't let anybody know. Anyways, episode 67. I hope you guys enjoyed it. if you're still listening now, you are really, really dedicated to this bit, and I appreciate it. But I promise that the rest of these episodes, up until 100, will be more serious. So my name is Josiah Winnell. Thank you for listening to episode 67, the Power and Light podcast.